Yo, as you can see today we're gonna check out how my song Echoes of Me was made. This song started off with vocals. These vocals were actually sent to me because a company wanted me to promote a place where they sell royalty-free vocals, basically. And this was one of the vocals I got sent. And specifically, I really like this one because he sings beautifully. And I think this guy, I don't know if he tried replicating what Magnus does. So the deal with them was like, they wanted me to create a video telling people to go visit the website. So I told them, I don't want to just make a random ad. So let me try to make a song with it. And if I make something cool, then I can break down the song. Stick with me. It might take me some time, but I want to make something good. So at this time, I was traveling in Mexico City. I just had my computer and my AirPods. That's it. So I got my computer. I started making some ideas and I came up with a chord progression that really felt like something. As you guys know, most of my songs start with chord progressions. And I sometimes can make 15 to 20 different chord progressions till I find something that really triggers something within me. I'm thinking maybe the chord progressions that I enjoy are based on what I'm feeling at the moment. So maybe this sort of mystical vibe was accompanying me at the time. And this is the chord progression I ended up with. It's actually 2 layers, one of these. So that's the one I'm using, and then I'm using the Prince 2, which is this was magical, I think. And this is the sound I'm using by itself in the intro. It sounds like this. And they both sound like this. I think what makes this chord progression special isn't just the chords by themselves or the sounds, but this little short notes that I'm using to move or transition from one chord to another. It gives this sort of ethnic feel to it. In this case, both of these really short notes, which are this one and this one, as you can see, this is not on the chord progression. This is not on the chord progression either. This is, but it's creating this really magical feel to it. Not only are they creating resonance and tension, but they're also sort of pulling you. I think those notes are sort of like pulling you, pushing you. Just like this. Like this one is like you're tense and then it lets you go. But anyways, I don't want to sound too crazy on this, but that's basically my thought process for this chords. Once I have my chords, I created the bass line, which looks like this. And it's actually just a respace, okay? It is a very simple respace. The trick here to achieve that really, watch this. To achieve that sound, I'm using the same bass, 2 notes or 2 octaves higher, and I'm using a filter to open it up and close it down. You can see it here, actually, on this serum. And it's just controlling how open the filter is, basically. And when you combine these 2, or these 3, actually, it sounds like this. Very magical. Crazy results. And I had to consolidate most things because I couldn't record. My computer, it might be losing strength. And with the vocals, it sounds like this.
Hard to see what is in front of me when I hardly speak out loud.
Very cool. If you're wondering what I did to the vocals, these vocals were wet already. I did have the dry vocals, but I felt like I wanted to use the wet vocals because I was just trying to make music. You know, I wasn't worrying about technicality. So what I did to the vocal was, first, I got rid of some of the S's with a de-esser. Really simple. And then I'm using the Spirit, which is another Cradle Audio plugin, and I'm not doing much to this. I'm adding some lows, I'm getting rid of some of the highs, and I'm adding a reverb. I just ended up using compression, and this compression ended up creating some sort of reverb swell, which sounds good. It sounds like I did it on purpose. Without it, sounds like this.
Hard to see,
With it,
hard to see. What is it?
this compression, as you can see, it's pushing down some of those peaks in there. That's pretty much what happened to the vocals. I also added Endless Smile to make some changes throughout the whole song, or some transitions, some EQ, a kickstart for some of the parts in the song, and I'm also using a Panomatic. And if you're wondering what I'm using a Panomatic for, before the drop, if you have not heard the song, there's an effect happening, which sounds like this.
Should we go home?
And I think that's one of the biggest things in the song, in this song. I didn't want to do another cliche build-up, so I figured I'm just going to loop this vocal again and again and again and again and see if I can do something with it. And I ended up making this effect where I'm controlling the speed of the volume, this LFO, basically using an LFO where I'm controlling the volume, and then another LFO where I'm controlling the panning. So I'm making it go left, right, and I'm also making the volume go up and down super fast, and then making it go slower. The automation that I did is this one. It's a Panomatic, this one. And it's super simple. It's going down, 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 down. Simple, very simple. And that for the drop, in the drop, I'm still playing the vocal again and again and again. Sounds like this. Wait. There are some harmonies in here, which sound like this. And the only thing I'm doing is I'm getting rid of the highs. I'm getting rid of some of the highs, some of the lows for both of them. But I'm putting the left side to the left and the right side to the right. Doing some panning in here. They might be a little bit too extreme, but they're there. And for the vocal that goes, it's getting routed to the exact same vocal channel in here, okay? So that's pretty much it for how the idea got started. Once I had the chord progression done, I figured I wanted to do something that could trigger a little bit more emotions than just a bass and the chord progression and a vocal. So I started adding some extra elements. One of the elements I added was a drum that would fill out basically where the vocal would not sing. So in this part, you can hear a drum that sounds like this. Sounds like this. I'm using these drums in the breaks to fill out the space when the vocal is not there, and also to keep the energy going. I wanted you to find something interesting even when there was no vocal happening. So this sound, however, sounds like this without effects. And this is how it sounds with effects. So without, with. What I'm doing with this is adding a ton of distortion, and I'm also using a convolver to give it a different space. And I'm also getting rid of some of the highs and some of the lows after this processing, this really extreme processing. But I think this plugin, Trash 2, is my favorite plugin at the moment. I'm using it for pretty much everything, really. I'm using it on drums, I'm using it on everything, and I can create very extreme distortion without having a dirty result. It doesn't, I know it might not make sense, but I can add a ton of harmonics without messing up my signals. It's just crazy. So that's what I'm doing with this, basically. When you play everything together, check how good these drums come in.
Speak out loud.
So So it is something very, very small, but it is adding something, I think. Besides that, we only have a vinyl. It sounds like this. It's a fuss and it's just making vinyl stuff. It's just making fuss in there. I then went ahead and thought, how the hell am I going to do a drop to this? So the first thing was adding drums. Drums sound like this. That's how the drums sound like. And at the time I had no vocal on the drop, so this is how it sounds like. It's 2 kicks and 1 clap. That's it for the drums. However, with this kick, I am adding a ton of rhythm. And as I've shown you before, this really adds up in this song. And it doesn't have any sub frequencies. I mean, this kick at least. It's just there to add rhythm, basically. And if I left some of the low frequencies on this, it would really clash with a sub. But at the time, I just wanted to get a feel of taking the rhythm of the breaks further. So I put in the chord progressions and I just play some drums on it and see what would vibe. And this is the rhythm I ended up with. Actually, without this clap, this is the rhythm I ended up with. I get a lot of messages from you guys asking, how do I start a drop? And my suggestion is make some chord progressions, then make some drums that can go with that chord progression. And from there, you can get a sense of rhythm, a sense of melodic elements. Those 2 elements will help you have a guide or a direction of where you could go, because you already limited yourself to this kind of rhythm, to this kind of chords. Right, so what happened after I finished the drums? How did I get from this to this? Step 1, I already had a rhythm guideline with the drums, and I already had a melodic guideline with the chords. So what I did was I first added a bass that would make sense with the chord progression. And by making sense with the chord progression, I mean I'm using the exact same bass progression in the drop, which sounds like this. I always start off my drops with a sub. So I loaded up a sub that sounds exactly like this. And what I'm doing with this bass is just following the kick rhythm, okay? The only thing I'm doing to this sub is making it mono. I'm adding some distortion, which you can't see, but I find out that I can use any plugin, any preset using this without seeing the wrapper. So I'm using British Clean on my sub, okay? Camel Crusher, British Clean. And then afterwards, I'm using some EQ, which you can't see, but I'm using to control some of the highs, some of the lows throughout the song, okay? Besides that, just a kickstart. And then I'm using another bass, which is adding some low mids to the layer, which sound like this. When you put these 2 together, it all starts making sense. And then after adding the bass, I figured I should add a layer of another bass. And I added this one. It's called bass. Ah, yes. Yay, yes. And it sounds like this. Let me play it by itself. And then this other bass was just exactly the same one, but duplicated and just widened it up. So when you put these 2 basses together, they sound like this. This bass is actually one of the basses from my pack called The Future of House, which you can find at store.jayeskar.com. I'm surprised, honestly. I've released this pack over a year ago, so check it out. You could be making your own Echoes of Me style track with this bass. This bass is actually the first bass you can find on the pack. It's here. So anyways, then we add the sub, and this is how it sounds with the sub. And that was good and all, but that was sounding cool and all, but I did feel like this needed a little bit more energy. So we ended up adding white noise again. So we were using 3x oscillator, which sounds like this. I know it sounds horrible, but I'm using a ring mod, which I'm using ring mod with a frequency shifter on one of the white noise, and then I'm using a white noise sample that sounds like this. When you put them together with the subs and the bass, sounds like this. White noise might sound a little bit overpowering when you play it by this by themselves, but when you play it with the drums, watch this. So yeah, afterwards, what happened? How did I make those leads? How did I imagine them? So the first thing that I did was, since I already had a rhythm and I already had a chord progression, why shouldn't I try adding the chords again and then try to make them arps? So that's what I did. I loaded up a very simple sound on Citrus. I made an arp out of the chords that I already made on the breaks. I played around with it over and over again. Nothing really sounded too good for the drop. This lead was made on Citrus, and it sounds like this. But without any effects, it sounds like this. So with effects. So this was, again, the result of me trying to make an arp that I would play on the drop. I ended up simplifying the first bar and then the third bar and leaving everything else as the actual arp I was making. So it sounds like this. This arp is the first drop, and it is not just that sound, it actually has some layers which sound like this. That one is a little bit piercing, but when you play it together. And then I added two white noise sort of hits that sound like this. With these two sounds, I made sure that the plug could stand out from everything else on the mix because there were so many things happening. So this actually, this plug, which is called Attack Booster, is actually part of my Silent for One sound bank, which you can find at store.jayesker.com. And I'm using two attack boosters. I call them that way because it boosts the attack of whatever you want. I made this pack years ago, and I still use it every day because I made some really useful things. So yeah, these is just two sounds, really short plucks. And they're adding a ton of attack. This is. Let me show you how the main lead sounds like without any effects. So without effects. And with effects. Also, very, very freaking important is I'm adding a pitch automation that's making the lead trigger up and down really, really fast sometimes. So this is making the lead sound instead of just it's just. Now let me show you how the lead sounds without any automation. Synth with automation. The bass line is also moving around a lot. This is how the bass sounds without any automation. With automation. So yeah, that's how we ended up adding a ton of more personality to the sounds in the job by doing something super simple. Of course, the way you do it matters. The way you apply it matters. When you apply it also matters. And this is basically what I thought felt good for this. But there are millions of other ways I could have done it. But this is the way I felt I needed to do, you know? So that's the first job. That was the first job, which sounds like this. And then for the second part of the job, the melody is going up. And why is it going up? You said you were following the same chord progressions as in the breaks. Let me tell you something real quick. I am following the same chord progression because on the breaks, when the build-up reaches, I changed the chords. Actually, I just added one extra note to the chords. So instead of just having an E, 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 and then F, and then D over and over again, I added an extra note, which was an E, and then a C. It added an extra note, which sort of adds a touch of hope to the song. I think that's what it makes it feel. So instead of this, it was now sounding like this. Really, really, really cool sound. I also made sure that the D, instead of going down, it would go up. And that just, I don't know, those are just some very, very simple songwriting techniques that you can add to your music to make it, I would say stand out, but I don't know if this stands out. So to make it just sound cooler, to add more swag to your music, basically. By the way, for this bass, if you're wondering how I make this respace, it's actually part of another sound bank I made called Melodic House Essentials by Jay Eskar, which you can find at store.jayeskar.com. And this one's called Neurosurgeon. I know it's called Melodic House Essentials, but I try to make sure this would be a pack where you could find the basics, but taking it a little bit further. Like not just a respace, but a respace that sounds interesting. So that's it. It's Neurosurgeon, and it's on store.jayeskar.com at the Melodic House Sound Bank, which you can find there. So we now have 2 things to check out. Actually, 3 things. Second job, third job, and then the mastering. Okay? What is different on this second job? The only thing different is actually the lead, because the bass stays exactly the same throughout the whole song. This is how the bass line sounds on the second job. It is the exact same thing as the first job, as you can hear it. It is the exact same thing, and I'm doing the exact same thing on the third job. Sounds like this. But wait, we're not gonna get to there yet. For the second job, what I did was I added a second lead, and you might be wondering, how did you make that lead? Sounds like this. How did I make that lead? You guys are not gonna believe this, but this lead looks like this. Simple piano roll. But guess what? It's actually the same respace used as a lead. And wait, okay? I'm using a respace as a lead, and I'm using specifically the same res from the job because it has the same tonality. This is a technique that I like doing sometimes and that you maybe could try too. If you're ever wondering how can I add a lead that makes sense with the bass that I have, try using the bass as the lead too. Duplicate it and create something new. So that's what I did with this lead, to be honest. But what it is basically 2 shapes that are detuned a lot and distorted, basically. That's what it is. And I'm also routing that lead to the pitch bend on the break. So this is how the lead sounds like with pitch bend. So it is following the exact same pitch automation that the bass line is following. And that's it for the drop. This is how it sounds like. And then we got something else on this track, a third drop, where we're listening to a ARP drop. I would call this the ARP drop. The ARP drop, it is actually the exact same lead from the first drop. However, it is the actual ARP that I had planned before, which sounds like this. Without any effects. With effects. And then we reach the drop. Can you guys believe that? The reason why I have 3 drops on this is because I was feeling so much with this song, it was impossible for me not to come up with new ideas. And that's rare. I think that's super rare. Whenever I'm making a song, I'm usually running out of ideas. But with this song, I never stopped getting ideas. I could have made 5, 6 more drops. I'm telling you, because I had the ideas. Going back to the breaks, I added some of the drop sounds on the breaks. With actually not drop sounds, but drop melodies. They sound like this. Watch. It is literally the drop sound, and I just have it drowned in reverb and some EQ, but it's pretty much the same thing from the drop. And it is playing throughout the whole breaks. Really, really, really cool. And those things are just adding, I don't know, emotions, I guess. And that's how everything came together. Then I added a build-up snare. Super simple. Nothing crazy happening, really. Just an endless smile on it. I don't know about you guys, but I've never heard a song that has a build up that sounds like do 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 that I felt like, oh my god, a build up. Honestly, I've been trying to stay away from very generic build ups, and I like adding tension, of course, to let the listener know that a drop is coming, but I try not making the very, like, repeating the same word over and over and then adding a pitch automation that goes up. That is boring, bro. I'm trying to stay away from that. So I did that with this. The only thing that's letting you know that there is a transition coming is the risers that I have sound like this, which are really hit in the back, as well as the drums. But those 3 elements are the only elements letting you know that a drop is coming. Overall, this song was mostly focused not on the technical aspects or like really complicated things. I believe so. I think this song was easy for me to work on because I was focusing on the songwriting part more than anything else. I wanted to make sure that transitions were easy without having to add a fill There are no drum fills on this song. The only drum fills that we have are the ones on the breaks. And because I felt like that was an extra songwriting element, I was not there to fix a bad transition. And for the drops, I don't have any typical dun, 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 dun kind of thing. I'm trying to use melodic elements to create transitions. And I've been trying to do that lately with all my music, to be honest, because it just feels more real. It just feels cool. It just feels better to me. So yeah, the only fill we could call a fill would be the Reese, which I'm using this. And then here. And then it goes down. Actually, it's the same one. So I'm using that as the only feel that we have on this song. So that's it for the track. Thank you for watching. This is my third time recording this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Really, I hope this was worth the wait. I was supposed to release it the Monday after the release, and I know it's been almost 2 weeks since the track was out, but I just couldn't do it. I tried. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying the video, and if you wanted to see my master chain, I'm using Luftikus for my master, which has a 2.7 high boost. Luftikus is the free version of Mag EQ, if you've ever seen it. This adds a boost on 40,000 hertz, which is sort of like air. And then I'm using Ozone. I started off with a preset called EDM. I'm using dynamics. I'm using low end focus, stabilizer, exciter. It's just adding some excitement to the mid frequencies here. Then we got an imager, which is making sure anything below 100, 120, actually almost 200 is mono. And then we got a maximizer. And afterwards, we got God Particle, as you can see here. God Particle is next level, to be honest. If you're wondering why I don't do my mastering in another project, that's because I start my projects with a mastering chain on. I know it's not the right way to do things. I know there's going to be some engineers in the comments saying like, oh, that's why your music is... But it works for me. I understand what everything is doing on my master chain, and I work around it. So I do my mixing knowing that I have a master chain on and focusing on making that master work perfectly with my mix. So yeah, I'm sort of doing things in reverse, but that's how I've been working and it works for me. So that's it. Yeah, that's it for the song. I'm hoping you guys enjoying. If you have not listened to Echoes of Me, go check it out. Link's going to be in the description. And I hope to see you guys soon. Hoping you guys enjoy this video. I appreciate you very, very much. I really love doing this and I want to do it till the day I die. And if someone hasn't told you this in some time, don't give up. I have my doubts sometimes too. Making music goes beyond entertaining people. Making music is something you can touch people's heart. So don't stop doing it. If you're watching this video, don't stop doing it, bro. Don't give up. If it's your passion, follow it, bro. I'm telling you, put all of your love into it and God will deliver.